Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and we are working on Hortensia, Stamperia's Hortensia. We're on page 8 of the mini album, and this mini album, I've done what you've seen in a lot of my tutorials where I do page 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. So we've already built this one, so we've built it on page 1. And I'm going to actually pull page 1 in so it can remind you. So if you recall, we've got a flap, a small flap that opens to the left and a large flap that opens to the right. And then on the flap, we've got a pocket. So this is page 1. So we're going to do the same thing over here with page 8, only it's going to be a mirror. So the large flap is going to open to the left, and then the smaller flap is going to open to the right. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to set that aside and we're going to get started. So let's set aside all our designer paper. That's the top. I'm going to try to keep them in order because on the other one I accidentally changed how I was going to cover things. And it turned out okay, but it wasn't what I had originally planned. So make sure your pockets are opening to the left and right. There we go. And the large flap, which is, and I'll double check, but I believe it is 7.5 by 8. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 7.5 inch side. It's going to be applied to the left hand side of the page. So let's get this in. We are really making good progress on this album. Okay. And there we go. Nice. Okay. So that is the large flap opening to the left, and then we're going to put the small flap over here on the right hand side, and we're going to center it top to bottom. And so the way I like to do that is find the center of both the flap and the center of the pocket page, put a little mark on it, and then line up the two marks, and that finds the center for me. So I'm using my Tim Holtz ruler, which for this kind of stuff is perfect because it helps you find the center very quickly. Of course, it's 8 inches, so it would be at 4 inches, but. And then, I don't think I told you this, but this flap, the smaller of the two flaps, is 6.5 by 6. And on the 6.5 inch side, you're going to come down and score, if it was in your scoreboard, you're going to score a 1/2 inch. So that is that. Alrighty. Okay, I'm just going to line up these two marks, and that's the center of our page. Pretty easy. And you can also just eyeball it if you want, because even if you're up or down, it isn't going to change how the page functions. It will function just fine, even if you're off center a little. Okay, now the way we're going to have it close is like this. The small flap is going to close over the large flap. So we need a set of magnets. I'm going to place one here. And I'm using my 5/8 inch score tape. And I use this to cover my magnets, but the other reason I like 5/8 inch is I use it when I'm covering the base album and to attach the spine to the book. It's just easier than using a whole bunch of 1/2 inch. Or 3/8, I guess, is the other size that I use, 3/8 inch. So okay, now we're going to locate this right over here. And that's that. So that's pretty straightforward. And I dropped a magnet, so I'm going to pick that up real quick so it doesn't wind up in my vacuum. I'm a crazy person. I have carpet in my craft room. It wasn't supposed to be my craft room. It changed. Someday I'll actually replace that and have either low pile or a hard surface that's easy to sweep up. Okay, there we go. Enough about that. So that's done. So now, as you recall, we have a small pocket that we need to install. And this pocket is, I'm going to double check. I said it wrong in the first page. It is 7 by 4.5, 7 by 4.5. And you're going to score a 1/2 inch on 2 sides and the bottom. So any 3 sides, and you'll get the same result. Well, that's not true. if you did these two, you don't want it open here, you want it open on the length side. So you're gonna score these 3 sides. And then we're gonna take these 2 corners and we're gonna marry them up to the edge of this flap. So let's go ahead and open it up. And the opening is gonna go that way, and the closed part of the pocket is going toward the edge of this flap. I just got back from a nice lunch brunch with my husband, and I can tell there's some air issues while we were out at lunch. You know, California, Northern California is pretty much on fire, and it's really starting to affect our quality down here south. I feel very congested, so hopefully I don't sound too muffled. It sounds that way in my ears, but there's not a lot I can do about it. All right, we're gonna marry these corners up. Actually, I'm gonna turn it so I can see 3 sides evenly. I find that I just lay it down better when I can see all 3 sides. There we go. Now we're back to page 8. So there's our pocket. Now we're ready to decorate. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is open it up and lay down the base mat here. And this is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. I don't know if I've done a good job of telling you that throughout the videos. I've been trying to, but sometimes I just pick up the paper and I forget to mention it. But this is definitely from the 12 by 12. Pretty easy to tell from the scale on the back side. Okay, there we go. Okay, now this is what I think I have for the inside. Like so. Yeah, that's it. So nice and simple. I was just making sure I had it right side up, and I do. It's always good to check not only that you have the pockets left and right, but on the flip side, page 7 is in the right orientation. I have done that before where I had the whole thing upside down, so when you flipped one side, it's right side up. You flip to the next page, it was upside down. It happens. Once in a while. In this design, it wouldn't really matter because these aren't directional, but it would have put this flap on the opposite side of what I had planned. Still not a big deal. Okay. Okay, so the next thing is, let's go ahead and do the large flap, the A side of the large flap. And this is the image that I chose, and this is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. It's one of the pages that has the lady's face on the side, and if you put it in your trimmer just right, you can trim off her face so that it's not partially into the image. And I don't know if I probably used the back side of it, but her face is like right here. So I think this is the outside edge of the 12 by 12. And I think this is 6 and 7/8, and that trims just perfect so that her face is not in on the trimmed out mat. And it's pretty, but I'm reluctant to put that bold of an image on a panel because it really overwhelms the whole page. It'd be pretty hard to put a person's image on the same page because I think there'd be too much competition between the print on the paper and your photograph, especially if it's a portrait photograph. Now, if it was a picture of a scene, it might be different, but to have both a print of a woman's face and a woman's face in a picture, I think that's a little too much competition. So that's why I opt to trim that off. And to use any of the facial images in the smaller scale. So there's not so much of a competition. Okay, that closes like that. And then we are going to use, this is from cut apart from the 4x4 that I've already matted on some cardstock. And I didn't think I was going to do this, but I thought I had chose another piece of paper. Let's look at it. Nope, I like it. It looks beautiful. So this is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. So there's the lady's shoulder, and it's the flip side. And the stripes are also from the 12 by 12 that I've just trimmed down. Okay, and then we're going to slip this slightly into the pocket. It's going to become the background for the pocket. Oops, I put my glue a little further down than I meant to. Remember, if you don't have glue on the leading edge, when I say leading, the part that you're pushing into the pocket, if you have to pull it back out, you won't leave a trail of glue. So if you go down a little too far, just be careful when you're placing it because you can't back off, you'll glue your pocket closed. Okay, there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay, now we're gonna place this and I'm just gonna eyeball it. But first I'm gonna put my insert in because I really wanna see how this looks after I have something in the pocket. This is the insert I made, and it is 5 by 5.5, 5 by 5.5, and it's going to fit in just like so. And we have a couple options. We can put it in this way where just the blue is exposed, and that looks kind of bland, or we can flip it around, and that's what I think I'm going to do, is leave it like this. Yeah, that looks just a little more interesting. And now I want to center the insert, and then center this image here. Like so. So you have this kind of stack effect. Looks good. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put my 2 little pencil marks. And why do I do that? And that is so that I don't accidentally run my glue past those pencil marks, because when I lay it down, I don't want to glue it on my insert. Now, hopefully that all makes sense for y'all. And then that is pretty much it for page 8. I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing, but I am going to use my Tim Holtz ruler and just make sure that it's pretty straight to the pocket. And it is. So I'm going to press that in place. And there we go. And that's that. There's our little insert. It opens to the left, to the right, to the left. Pretty, pretty. I love that. That's so pretty. So pretty. That's that. So that's the end of page 8. So trying to decide. I think, let me look at my timestamp. We're at 14 minutes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the inside liner, the inside back liner, and I'm going to marry this up with page 8. So you'll do page 8 in the back liner. So I think, yeah. So here are the two pieces that I've decided to use for the front and back, and you can actually go either way. And I'm going to lay down my pages real quick and make a decision about whether I want the front or the back. So that is page 8 that way, and that's page 8 that way. So I'm leaning toward that. Now I'm going to pull in page 1. So this is page 1. That's A and B. They're both very pretty, but I think I'm going to lean this way. And then you've got all this space where you can put some photos. So that's the direction I'm going to head in. So we're going to lay them down like so. Okay, I'm going to focus on just the back piece. So we are working with, let me double check, but I believe it's 8.5. Yes, 8.5 by 8.5. So I've trimmed this paper down to 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. And now I'm just setting it in here because I want to make sure that it stays clear of the hinge, this score space. If it doesn't, what will happen when you go to close your book is it's going to buckle your paper up. Even if it's glued down, it's going to buckle. So make sure you're clear of that. So that's what I'm doing right now. And it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in as is. This is definitely from the 12 by 12 collection pack. I don't usually burnish this much, but because there's a lip from the tape, the bookbinding tape, and then another lip from the cardstock, I'm just making sure that it's really grabbing across that area. And it feels good. So that is it. So that is the end of page 8 and the inside liner for the back page. And when we get back together, we'll work on the cover.